What is a 17-year-old guy? What could he possibly see in someone that's 13? He pushed her out of a moving car one time. And when I asked her about that, all she had to do was write me and say, "But I love him." Welcome back. This is a podcast called Let's Spill the Tea. I'm Monica May. We are developing a community of moms and their girls who are 14 to 21, but anyone is invited to listen in, dads as well. In Orlando, Florida, that's where I'm living right now. My daughter and I started this community here at a bistro that my husband and I have. We host teas, and I do mean a tea. Now, I don't know much about tea. I will tell you that, but it's also a symbolism. Tea is for you to share gossip. It's for you to share lies too. Tea is what tea is. For interest of this, we're talking about the tea being the truth. And if a mom can share her past, it'll help save her daughter's future. And if you were with me last time, I talked about this teen letter that I wrote years ago. I was talking to some teenage pregnant moms, and I began to see some of the same girls coming back. What I didn't share with you is that I would have been a teenage mom had I not done something to prevent that. But I will say that that teen pregnancy ran in my family. I'm going to share with you a little of that letter that I was talking about. I wrote it in third person. I'm giving you the gist. I'm giving you the tea before we start, huh? This letter came to me from one of the teens I used to counsel. She was 12 when we met. We've stayed in touch for years. She began writing her thoughts out on paper because some of what she experienced was just too painful to express face to face. One of the things that I share with moms, give their daughters a journal. Things that she may not want to say to you, or things that she does want to say to you, but she knows she better not. She needs to write them down. They have to come out of her head. They have to get off her heart. They have to get out of her flesh and onto paper. A little bit of this girl's past was that when she grew up in the projects of New York City, she had lived all of her life before that in a small one-bedroom apartment with her sister and mom. They lived above a bar. They had rodents, mice, roaches. Not a lot. The barmaid used to babysit this girl and her sister, so you can imagine what they were exposed to. They moved to the projects when her 16-year-old sister turned up pregnant. It happens. It happened to me later on. Although she didn't know much about sex then, she was very curious. Her mother, though, never shared anything about the birds and the bees, she told me. When they moved to the projects, my young friend used to ride the train back up to her old neighborhood to hang out with her old crew. It was hard to break into the circle of kids in the projects. They used to call her names whenever she walked past. She had long hair, she's light skinned, but there's something else that I'll tell you in a moment. After a while, though, she did seem to attract one of the finest guys in the neighborhood. He was 4 years older than my young friend. I'm going to put a pin right there. What is a 17-year-old guy? What could he possibly see in someone that's 13? When they get on college campuses, the brothers used to call it fresh meat. I'm being very open and honest. One thing I need to tell you is that over the years, the three words that she'd never heard from anyone was, "I love you." So when he started giving her the attention she thought she was craving, she just melted right into it. My friend didn't have the best esteem at all. In fact, she thought she was rather ugly. When she looked in the mirror, all she saw were these bumps, ears that stuck out, and on top of that, she wore eyeglasses. They were pretty thick, too. So she was okay when he started telling her how cute she was. My friend remembers that she was just 12 and she was just about to turn 13. Hormones are just starting to rise up at that point. She and he started having sex when she became 13, and because she never heard about the birds and bees, it was only a matter of time before my friend had her first sexually transmitted disease. There were others, and many a time she thought she was pregnant since all the time they had sex was always unprotected. As time went on, my friend lost contact with her crew. Sound familiar? And also the crew from the old neighborhood, all because he had accepted her, and now so had the other project kids. She thought she was something. All of a sudden, she started getting smart with her mother. She was already talking back. My friend had a horrible attitude, something about never feeling loved, and nothing ever mattered. At least that's what she said to me. But it seems like as soon as my young friend started having sex, she started acting different. She was even more disrespectful to her mom. Did I mention she never really saw her father except the few times he came to beat her when her mother couldn't keep her in check? Nothing could keep her from this guy. And now most of the other girls in the project that were part of the neighborhood crew, they were checking on her too. Most of them were 4 to 5 years older as well, and into things that my young friend had never heard of. The first time she smoked a joint, she might have been about 14. Once that became a habit, she started lacing it with angel dust. Then she moved on to cocaine. My young friend used to come in at all times of the night. She was missing school. And when I asked her about that, all she had to do was write me and say, "But I love him. He wants me to go with him places, and I just want to be with him." Her mother found out about her missing days at school. What did my young friend do? She ran away from home. Well, by now, my young friend had finally made it to high school, and all through that time, she barely made it by, but she did manage to graduate. She had no plans, though. There were no college graduates around her, and her mother just worked for the city of New York, and all my friend saw was how miserable she always seemed. But the one thing her mom told her was that she had two choices. One was to get a job, at least to go looking for a job, or find a school to go far away from. And she emphasized far away, too. So she did. Her cousin got her into a college in the South, and that meant she'd have to leave her boyfriend. Oh, I forgot to tell you that by this time, even though she still had the acne, it wasn't as bad, and she was starting to meet new guys. She still had low self esteem and seemed to be meeting the wrong kind. This is just at 13 and 14. My friend seemed to be attracted to mostly drug dealers. And when he got wind of that, he beat my young friend. When she wrote me about that, I just wanted to cry. See, I hadn't met her mother ever, but it didn't seem like she had anyone to talk to. And I was so far away. But over time, she told me of other fights that she and he had had. He pushed her out of a moving car one time. And another time they had a fight. He pushed her so hard, she fell backward and hit her face on something that cut into her cheek. She told her mother some lie and got stitched up, and no one asked any questions. Huh? She told me the truth, though. My friend was in her school. They wanted to kick her out. This is college now. They wanted to kick her out the first week. She would break curfew and even got caught smoking in her room. Well, after that first year there, she decided, at the urging of a teacher, that she should look into communications. One thing was certain, she may not have gone to school often, but on the low, she was very smart. My friend went to the school library, looked up some different careers, started asking questions. Before she knew it, she had applied to a college upstate New York and was on her way there. Something happened over the summer when she came home from school. She saw him and she didn't have any feelings for him. In fact, when she saw him, she was able to look him in the eye and tell him, "Go straight to hell." She was so scared. She was tired of the beating. She was tired of only having sex and never going anywhere. She told me that she was just tired. Now she's like 16, 17. How are you going to be tired at that age? But she was. Guess what? Soon as she got to her new college, she hooked up with a drug dealer. An older guy probably saw her as fresh meat and fell into the same pattern, getting high, having sex, not going to class, and before she knew it, this time at 17, my friend really was pregnant for the very first time. After she told the dealer she was pregnant, naturally he denied it and he disappeared. She had her first abortion illegally, and that was just the first one. After that, she broke up with him, started going to class, but just for a while. See, the one thing my young friend never learned was discipline. She had no love for herself and seemed to be just living life one day at a time. She wrote me about how unhappy she was and even admitted that she didn't want to live anymore. I was able to talk her out of that. That's serious, but I also know that it would only be a matter of time before that thought came up again. My friend was still getting high. Drugs were everywhere on her campus. She was well liked and even had gotten a little fly by this time. Her acne was getting better, and she was busy on campus at the radio and television station. She was involved in politics and doing okay in class. She went through a string of guys on campus, though. She never seemed to be happy. She still felt unloved, and with no discipline, she was still just living day to day with no real plans. Life was just happening. And as we begin to wrap up, something happened. My friend wrote me that she was about to graduate and she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with her life. But she did sound good, though, for the first time, not like her old depressed self. My friend had decided on a career in radio and had even made contact with several stations. She attended conventions and even learned how to network. She told me about a radio station in Washington, D.C., and went down for the interview. I didn't hear from her for a while after that. Then one night, out of the blue, she sent me a note letting me know that she was okay. She had a daughter by that time. She had moved to Orlando, Florida, was doing pretty good. Her demons seemed to have faded, replaced by a spirituality I'd never heard before from her. She wasn't married, but had that baby and seemed so happy. The last time we spoke, her daughter was a graduate student at Howard University, and my friend, well, she was the host of the Tom Joyner Morning Show and now owns her own company, Monica May Communications. That girl I've been telling you about is me. So that was the letter, the teen letter, we call it. I know that you have a letter in you. I know that there are some things as a mom that you really want to share with your daughter. Sometimes it's hard. Why don't you put it in a letter? And you can leave out certain things. I left out certain things. I changed names or just left them out. The names are not important. It's you. And getting it off of you is really important. We're developing that community for moms and dads to be able to have real communication, courageous conversations with those teen girls, 14 to 21. Why don't you become a part of our community? Why don't you send me some information? You can do that. Reach out to me at info@letsspillthetea.org. I'm Monica May for Let's Spill the Tea.